Here. Let's follow me. I know, baby. Yes. Let me get this chair. Come on, it's okay. Let me just move the chair. No, just let me move the chair. It's okay. Shh. Let me just move the chair out of the way. Okay, no. No, not this way.
Секта в каранте граундра С одной головы соседина Весь пух и прах Все с одного ребра И одна сатана А в глаза бела пелена До сорта пена бела брызжет Кипит буйно голова Да моя я могу взорвать Два надреза по три шва Сочетает расправа Здесь в синей форме арава И железные оковы Да на руки рукава Терпей буйно голова Да терпей буйно голова
I'll give up.
I thought you wanted a Gatorade.
That's great. You didn't grab me either.
Getting strong oaken hints. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Large Lads, episode 39. Crazy streak going. We've got your host, Maxon Frederick Sheether, your co-host, Samuel Braden Sheether, and Kirsten King Kong Claw. We'll get straight into it. Early lifting lore. Someone asked us for another segment of some of our early lifting stories. What were the PRs you got most hyped for early on, or some cringe you committed?
My favorite PR is my one plate bench, I think.
Okay, yeah.
That was awesome.
We were discussing that you got to a one plate bench faster than I did. Obviously, I was very, very young for when I started, but it took me a lot longer.
Yeah, what do you think? It was like a year for me?
A little bit less.
Yeah. That was pretty cool. That was a good day. I think I hit it, and it was pretty smooth, too, so we tried to go up. I got stapled like 2 more times by trying to go up after that, so I think that kind of ruined the...
It hurts the session a
little
bit, yeah.
But it was still really sick.
That is very funny to be like, dude, I finally got a plate. And more.
You got any off the top of your head? I'm still brainstorming.
One of my favorite early lifting PRs.
Yeah, or cringe that you committed?
There's a lot of cringe that I committed, certainly. What is it? Early lifting PRs that my first 4-plate squat was a real disappointment because we did it at the YMCA in Idaho, and you were like, that was high, it doesn't count.
Yo.
And then I never really got an official first 4 or 5. By the time we re-ramped back up, it was well more than that.
Yeah.
And I remember just being it really took the steam out of the engine. I was like, oh, really? I remember it could be are you sure? Because the video was horrible. I remember being Sam, I would be positive of this.
You can't judge depth from
I feel like my first 4-plate deadlift was pretty cool. I remember that being very hype. I missed it and then freaked out, went home, and we had a bar and weights, and then I just tried again and got it. So that was really that was an emotional night for tween Max.
I'm trying to remember. I've got a really early one. I think I've already told on here a long time ago. The first time I ever did 2 plates on any bench variation, we were visiting our aunt and uncle in Portland.
Yeah.
And I got my mom to drag me to a LA Fitness. And I had never seen a decline bench before. They had a bunch of machines, because we only had listed at a YMCA. There's a bunch of machines. Oh, what's this do?
Yeah.
There was a decline bench. And I was like, oh, hell yeah. Lower pecs.
Yep.
I know these things. And then I realized
The nest.
And then I was like, oh, I'm stronger at this.
Yeah.
Isn't nest your upper pecs and then hood is your lower pecs?
Yeah, you're right.
Get your, yeah, dude.
My Josh Bryant prison lingo is lacking.
Lacking. And I remember
The back arm.
I remember I was warming up. I was like, oh, I'm really good at this one. I didn't realize it was easier.
Yeah.
And I thought I was like, oh, this is a good one for me. And I remember I got up to 2 plates and it was easy, and I did a 245. It was the first time I ever benched more than 2 plates on this decline bench, and I did it for 2. And I remember I was like, God damn, I'm so good at decline bench. I need to tell people that I'm good at decline bench.
This is my I think I'm peaked at this one.
Yeah. And then
I'm really gifted at decline bench.
I got my first 3-plate bench press with some of my friends from high school at the Sammamish YMCA up where Sterling lived. Which, hey, big ups to Sterling, our intro guy. That's massive part of how we've been able to do these weekly for the last 5 or 6 weeks.
Yep.
It was just tough. even though the intros were so simple and silly and short when I was making them, it would still take me like 1 hour plus, mostly because I'm bad with computers and
finding
clips. And it was really hard to find an hour on top of all the coaching I'm doing right now because my time's a little thin. So Sterling helping us out with these, absolutely massive. No Sterling slander will absolutely not be tolerated in the comments. He is doing us a massive solid. But yeah, at his YMCA, I remember I got my first 3-plate bench and going sicko nuts.
I feel like I conned myself out of many of my first like really cool PRs.
I think we both did that by trying to do them too early, to where they were to like shit standard, and you have like this weird mixed feeling about it instead of just training for a little longer and doing it well.
Yeah, because my first 500-pound deadlift, we did it. It was my only PR I've ever pulled in straps, and I kind of hitched it. And I like at the time I was like, "Is it locked out yet, Sam?"
Was that the one that I said like a little bit more?
Yeah, I just like leaned back. Yeah, so I do remember quite a few PRs. Like I definitely was like, dang, it was cool, but I'm not 100% happy about it. And then like most of the other ones, that was like I felt like I like missed, and then when I finally got it, it was more like, God, damn it, that took a while.
I have a cringe PR.
Fantastic.
I had been plateaued on my squat for a hot minute, and I took some time away to do SSB for a block, and it went really well, and we came back to squatting. And then I hit a 40-pound squat PR, but the problem was we had hit like a 5-pound PR and then kept going up. You were there.
Yep.
And I ended up loading 266 to beat somebody that had done 265, and then I loaded it, and my knees actually touched on the way up, but I did not care. I was so excited, and then I posted it on the internet, and now I have that video to show people that my squat used to look so bad.
I mean, there's plenty of elite women that their knees do just touch halfway up the lift. It's crazy.
Yes, I'm trying to think. That one was pretty funny. Kirsten regularly has nightmares remembering that video.
That video is so bad.
You had a video that you demanded I delete.
What was it?
It was you delving at the YMCA, and then like a year later, you were like, "Brother, you can
Oh,
never."
yeah,
That
yeah.
video has to be erased.
Was it? It was the conventional one?
Yeah.
No, that was at the UW IMCA or whatever.
You're
IMA.
585. I'm talking about a different one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been plenty of those. My early conventionals were all hellaciously bad because I made the pivotal mistake of not training a pure hinge pattern. I wasn't just chipping away at a flat back RDL,
Yeah.
not a round, unround erector exercise, but like a
Yeah.
hinge. I didn't really understand the value of just putting in work on pure hinges early on. And, oh man, did it show in my deadlift that I didn't work pure hinges. Like I had to rely on that rounding and erector strength, and it like kind of spiraled on top of itself. And my erectors got stronger and stronger, so then things look even less hingy, and it got pretty. I think it culminated in that like 600 era when I was getting like 600 conventionals and maybe 650 sumos.
Yeah.
That was at the peak of like, wow, this has gotten out of control. Your hamstrings aren't there and your erectors are really, really strong.
I remember I showed my whole English class the video of your first 600-pound deadlift. I a little bit early lifting
Thank
cringe.
God
for
they
me
don't know what they're looking at.
Was I remember I posted on my Instagram, like back when I had an Instagram that wasn't just lifting weights, like first body weight bench at like 155, and I remember I had like two people be like, isn't this just a push up? And I got so salty where I was like, no, it's like a push up if your legs were on the ground, asshole. It's like so, just like it's like a random person.
That is
like,
devastating,
I
yeah.
had like a freshman in high
That's so
school, just people like, fuck
No, they
you.
just didn't know. They're like, these are people that haven't been to the gym.
Okay,
They're
I
like,
was
oh,
like,
is
that's
this?
fucking mean. I'm gonna start commenting that on my Denise posts.
I'm trying to think.
2 push-ups.
Shit I was jazzed on, like, I don't know, the 880 deadlift was like a big feeling of payoff to feel like I'm a good deadlifter. 600 bench, 500 bench. I think the 405 was pretty good, but that one I over trained for. By the time I actually did 4 plates, I did 420. That almost was less of a big payoff in that way because I had known I was capable of it and just kept training. Like that was when I started to get a little bit more wise with how I did things and periodize things by block and not just go for stuff and train for a little long. I started doing things smarter. So I think the fact that I had known I could bench 405 for a while now made it so that when I did it, it wasn't the big payoff. Like the 600, I was really not sure if that was going to go.
Yeah.
The first 500, I was really not sure if that was going to go. I had enough data to tell me that like there's a good chance it
not a
goes,
bad attempt,
but it's
yeah.
hard to convince myself. Don't think I've ever had a squat that I felt that way about yet.
That like you've been excited about.
That I had that level of excitement and payoff, and there was nothing like, oh, but was the depth good? Like that, like pure, I did it feeling. I don't know if I've had a squat with that, like no second guess, big milestone, hell yeah. My objective is to do, because Alex having me do a lot of squatting, and that's a big priority within his programs, and I can tell my squat is coming along. My 8 plates and my 800. I'm gonna make sure they're really quality, and I could have that payoff. Because that is gonna be like, I know I'm gonna get there. I've got the leverages. I've got big legs. Like, there's no reason I can't be a really good squatter. I don't want to hold myself back. It's just like there's kind of internal understanding of the lift that I need to get better at. There's lagging areas of physicality, and there's just more time under squats. I get that, right? I see you. But I'm going to be a good squatter. And so I'm going to make sure that when I get those numbers, I really do my due diligence so I can finally have that payoff of hey, I'm finally a decent squatter. Of course I'm a decent squatter. Right? I'm not weak. But proportionally.
You should listen to some of Max's squat cues. That worked really good for me. Yeah, have you tried getting your back tight and bracing harder?
Yeah, tightening up your upper back. That did you some wonders.
Yeah, that was really helpful. So you should try that.
I've tried, and they don't scale as well to me, I don't think.
I think it's because he's not actually listening. Kirsten, my number one student. Very funny. Sam will give Kirsten a cue 8 times, and then I'll say it, and she'll be like, damn, you're smart as hell.
I know. And then she'll keep telling me, Max knows so much about squatting. I was like, he told you to flex your upper back. I told you that.
See, it's less about the cue itself and when to initiate the cue. I'm more identifying what Kirsten needs when she needs it. I would say I'm maybe the best coach in this house, perhaps.
Yeah.
I really did bamboozle myself out of so many PRs. My first 100-pound bench, pretty cool.
Hype.
I went ape in that YMCA.
You also were pretty fired up about your first 500.
That one was
You're very fired up about that.
That was almost the perfect scenario in which I failed it, and then we did a little bit more training, and I went for it probably too soon, kind of stupid, and I just barely got it. There was the level of not fully expecting to get it. Because remember, I turned around, I was like, I didn't think I was going to get it. And you were like, I didn't think you were either. Because we have 0 injury risk on bench. So I'm always a little too willing to go for it because it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, as far as lifting cringe, I remember being frustrated that they kept yelling at me for deadlifting too loud at the YMCA, which looking back, I'm just in the wrong. That's their rules, right? I don't think I was too much of a dickhead to the staff. But then I was stubborn, and I kept coming in the next week and kind of just doing it again. Which I look back and I'm it was dependent on who was there, right? Really, the ones that make me cringe looking back is when I watch, you love looking back over your Instagram and seeing, Max spends all day watching his old lifting videos and seeing his progression.
I've not been keeping up with my study lately.
Max can tell you, based on outfit, what outfit he was wearing for different milestones and shit. Max has studied his own lifting history, and I think he gets some benefit from it. I don't, because I look back and I'm like, I was doing this wrong, this is so embarrassing, my form was bad here. There's so many things I could have been doing better, and I think because I was self-coached, I watch it, I'm like, fuck you, you're an idiot. You could be doing this so much better. You could have hit this number so much faster. What is this technical strategy? I fell victim to the same thing the C guys talk about, which is everybody thinks they're unique, and they have this is what works for me. It's this rare technical model that no one good does. Really? That's interesting. I thought the same thing. I was like, I'm just this. I'm unique. That my form is totally unique to me. Probably just try to copy what the breadth of people stronger than you are doing. Stop thinking you're so special.
My early lifting cringe was squatting high and being in horrible denial about it. I did that for about a year. And I remember I'd go to war with people in my comments just being shut the hell up, you loser, I out squat you. Yeah. And I had this horrible cope because I was 250 pounds. I was Ray Williams squats high because his hips are really tight. And I dunk him in meat, so I'm actually training just like Ray Williams.
Hey, technically you did never run into a problem in meat.
I've never gotten a red light for depth. I would just dunk him in meat, but training high, I'm glad it fell in between meets, so it never was an issue.
When you were nowhere near big enough to justify, there is a real thing there with really big athletes.
Where you're getting too tight to that it's beginning hard to get hit depth consistently week to week. You deload, it's a lot easier to hit depth. I was just way too small.
You were nowhere near big enough for that to be really well.
I remember you gave me the justification of it's maybe because you're too fatigued.
Yeah.
And I remember just running with that and being I feel like
that was partially on me. I did enable this era. I think so.
I feel like
because I was like, he never gets red lights and meats. Fuck yeah.
I feel like if I'm ever like sensitive, like if an Instagram comment could rattle me about like this is a ramp or whatever, there's truth in it.
There's something
because it wouldn't hurt me if it was completely like because if someone was like, oh, your grip was going, and I know it wasn't, I'm like, yup, good one, buddy. But if it was, I'd be like, yeah, and you try and pick this up, you coward.
That's my favorite thing in like local meets when you know someone's small has been squatting high the whole prep, and then they actually end up like being able to dunk their third attempt and get it. That's like my favorite, like, oh shit, I was fucking wrong. Great.
Got that dog in you. How'd you do
Great
that?
job.
I
Awesome.
guess to tell the folks about it, right? Like when you have a big guy, their mobility is already kind of borderline. Fatigue often manifests as a loss of mobility, and they would have to run through so much mobility work that's kind of impractical every single training session to go to depth. And then when they deload, that mobility comes back, and then they like you see guys like a lot of Colton Engelbrecht's prep. It was high. That is in meat. It was to depth. That's that drop in fatigue. And I think a big differentiating factor is, are you squatting in a way where you're trying to squat as deep as you can and your mobility is binding you up? Or are you manually pumping like using a mechanic that manually pumps the brakes early? And that's where you get the delusional guys where it's like, no, you're clearly putting the brakes on it early.
Yeah.
You're stopping yourself. This isn't the form that you're like, I'm going as low as I can, and this is what my mobility lets me go today. Sometimes that fatigue, like, Dave Osborne, Big Coach D, he's talked about that where he's like, yeah, that deload makes a difference for big athletes in their mobility. I think that's super interesting, but I think the average person should stay well away from that thought process.
Yeah, that process is not relevant
just a way.
unless
It's just a way to understand what you're seeing with these big, ultra strong guys.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's something you should try to always squat to death.
Yeah, me identifying that with a 5.5 plate squat.
Do
Being
some
like,
pigeon stretch and some third world squat. Like you should be trying.
Shout out for the viewer submitted question: best and worst fast food burger.
It has to be fast food, so I'm gonna have to think about this. You go first. You probably have better.
Shit. I don't know. McDouble.
The best?
I love McDoubles.
Crazy. That's
a double quarter pounder. What are the alternatives? At Wendy's, like it's got a lot of protein though. A Dave's double or a Dave's triple has like 55 to 85 grams of protein. That shit goes huge. Yeah, it's not very
it's
good.
too greasy. It's like I feel like I take a bite of that. I'm like, this is bad.
Yeah, but
this one is killing me. I think.
If that's a good emergency, because I'm just like, oh, that's a ton of protein, and like we're trying to keep our body weights high. So the fact that it's kind of shit isn't the end of the world. I think like if it was every day, I wouldn't go within 100 feet of it because it would feel like I was fucking dying and I was sweating grease.
I feel like Jack in the Box is horrible. Don't know how that's a place.
We went on a date. We went on a date to check. I guess calling it a date's crazy.
It was in college, so you can call it a date.
Fuck no, that was not a date. Don't do me like this.
Date night out to Jack
We
in
were
the
going.
Box.
We were going somewhere, and there happened to be a Jack in the Box. We're like, oh, let's try. I didn't know they like dose everything in butter. It's crazy.
No, so worst for me, probably Jack in the Box. Burger King's not gonna win it for me. I don't like a Wendy's burger very much. I feel like I gotta go just the traditional double quarter pounder with cheese.
Does Five Guys count as fast food?
Yes.
That's my vote.
Okay, that's a fair, good burger.
Yeah.
But you have to get it with bacon, otherwise it's mid.
I would say the bacon on the Five Guys burger does upgrade it significantly.
Let us know, what were your favorite early lifting PRs and burger choices? Classic large lads.
Here's a hot take for you, related to that last question.
Yep.
They're very rare, but a well-run Burger King.
I've never run into one.
I've been to like 2 or 3, and when they like actually properly follow their instructions to make a Whopper properly, that's my favorite fast food burger. I know that's a wildly unpopular opinion, and like Moist Critical's just leading this brigade of people shitting on Burger King rightfully. When you go to a good one, the Whopper's the best one. Somebody has to agree. I know I'm going to get trashed for this because everybody agrees it's shit. Is the average one shit? but one of you has to have been to a good Burger King. The Whopper is good.
Yeah, I think if you're looking for an audience who might agree that Burger King is awesome, the large lads audience is
I'm
pretty good.
one of the boys. We have a assortment of fat guys and aspiring fat guys. One of you guys agrees with me, right? Like, you eat some chicken fries and a Whopper. Am I right?
It's very funny. Whenever I walk into a fast food joint and I'm like really like, I'll either be like very confident or really dubious based on the staff. There's a dude who works at our local, what is it? Not Jimmy John's, Jersey Mike's. Is the biggest chiller and is so fast and good at making sandwiches. I'm always like, this is my fucking bro. This is my dude.
I had one of my like fucking Dorian Yates style like weird muscle tunics on and my headphones on my head like I always wear.
Yeah.
And the fucking dude at the Jersey Mike's called me Techno Shrek. That really caught me off guard.
Hilarious. Awesome. Yeah, shout out the Jersey Mike's
That was
guy.
sick.
If you were Jersey Mike's in Bozeman, Montana, you're my best friend. I worked into a Pizza Hut like the other day and I was like, oh no. Oh fuck. I was like, you don't know how to make a pizza good. I can tell.
Yeah, that wasn't that good.
Yeah, no, I knew the second I saw that dude, I was like, oh fuck.
It was better than I thought it was going to be, though.
Pizza Hut has
definitely
gotten
improved.
better. Next question. Jimmy question mark?
Let me tell you guys a story. So I got this client. His name is Jimmy, right?
Shout out, Jimmy.
Jimmy has basically demonstrated like the best mentality and execution of like a large weight cut. I thought some of you guys would think this was interesting, so I told Max to put in our like show notes, which is a very glorifying way to say Max's notepad for these, to just talk about like what Jimmy did. Jimmy, shorter guy, he bulked up. I want to say Jimmy got up to like 260, 270 maybe. Jimmy, if that's wrong, please correct me. You know, his numbers went up and up and up. I want to say he squatted in the mid fives. He benched like 385 and he deadlifted around the 600 mark, right? And then Jimmy decided he wanted to cut. He's like, I don't like being this high of a body fat. Like, I'm getting married soon. I would like to be leaner for my wedding. I'm going to do a big cut. Like, I believe Jimmy watches like a lot of fitness YouTube. He likes like Sam Sulik. And he's like, I think I'm going to cut. And he's like, but to be clear, I don't really hate how I look. I just think it makes sense. I should be a little bit leaner. And he did it in like the most like non-self-loathing way, very moderate, very slow, didn't get mad about like, yes, it's slow. It's always slower than you think. Everybody thinks they're a 2-month cut away from being lean, and it's more than that.
Yeah.
Right? And he just like did it exactly how you're supposed to, which is like he kept his dieting, like pretty standard stuff that he normally eats. He tracked his calories, he's tracked his step count, and gradually over the course of like a year, his body weight came way down. And his strength did fall. Like anytime you're cutting a big percentage of your body, your strength is going to fall. I remember I was told that over and over and over. It's like, if you do it right, you shouldn't lose any strength. If you're like well trained.
Yeah.
And
Especially if you're losing like 60 plus pounds, it's like
Yeah.
there's no way you're like, I'm just going to maintain it all. You can't go slow enough.
even like 30, like you're going to lose some strength. Some of that is temporary strength loss that like when calories are reintroduced and you're in this more like glycogen full state, it bounces right back up. So it's not like you regain strength that fast. It was that it was kind of artificially suppressed, but like you're going to lose strength. I remember being told like you're cutting wrong if you're losing strength. It's like if you're a well-trained power lifter and you cut 30 pounds, guess what your numbers are. Otherwise we would all just do that and our dots would go up.
I was the best 242 of all time.
And so his numbers came down and we put him on a very auto-regulated program that way he wasn't like missing lifts regularly. He came down, his strength came way down. Like, I want to say at his weakest, like he was at 385, his bench came all the way down to like, let's say 275. He got to the bottom of his cut. He's like, I like how I look. This is awesome. But he didn't like say like, I need to stay this lean now. And we started gradually reintroducing calories. Like he's done it in a really mentally healthy way where he's not going to balloon back up. And now he's setting new PRs at this body weight. And he's like not stressing out in comparison to other people. He's not worrying about, oh, I used to do 385. He's like, awesome, this is a new bodyweight PR, right? Like I'm just enjoying almost starting again from this physique that I like. I'm gonna maintain this physique that I really like while I kind of start working my way back up. And he's already back up till I would estimate like north of 3 plates again, right? It's like pretty soon it's gonna be proportionately better of a bench at this body weight than he was at his biggest, right? And but it's slow, like he's not constantly like, well, I remember when 3 plates was a set of 8, right? He doesn't worry about that. And it's like, I don't know, it's just been like the quintessential example of how to mentally handle a cut from start to finish to reintroduction, right? Didn't think, oh, the diet's done. He's like, no, I'm just gonna start I'm still counting my calories. I'm still using that life skill that I developed. I don't know, I just know like there's a couple of large lads that are like, I'm not gonna win any money strength training soon. I'm heavier than I would like to be. I would like to come back down. come back down, and then maybe if you want to gain muscle, you start gradually reintroducing back up, keep those. I just figured I would bring it up as a story because it's like the best I've seen someone execute it. And then the other thing, I've got a couple of guys who are doing the same, kind of inspired by Jimmy recently, and the inclusion of a lot of calisthenic work and weighted calisthenic work is like a really good idea when you're cutting because it gets really, really mentally tiring to come in
Every
and
session's a little bit
underload.
fucking
You're a little
weaker.
bit worse. You're a little bit worse. Maybe a good session is you match. You're a little bit worse, right? That gets really old, even if you use an auto-regular program and you got this great mindset. So if you can include like weighted chin-ups, don't track total weight, track added weight.
Yeah.
You can include weighted dips, pull-ups for volume, push-ups for volume, like big total rep endurance kind of workouts. Pull-ups for volume, inverted rows, lunges for volume. Include these things that reward and some more cardio modalities. Include things that reward you being lighter to give you a positive feedback loop for what your diet is doing for you, in addition to enjoying the like cosmetic changes. And that's part of like what I found with like, I don't know, I've got like 4 guys right now who like bulked up. Mikey bulked up to hit a 500 bench and he's like, awesome, I benched 500.
Yep.
Now I want to be a little bit more jacked. And he's coming down. Mikey's down like 40 pounds.
Hell yeah.
We switched up the training objectives so that way he doesn't have to see his bench come down.
Yep.
But we're doing like some adjacent lifts that are just kind of novel.
Yep.
That way he can get better at them because they're new. We're including like chin-ups and stuff. So that way he's like, I'm getting a little bit better every week. I'm being rewarded for coming down. And I think the first person I heard talk about that a lot was Alex Leonidas. And I was like, that's a great point. When you're cutting, just if you can bias a little bit more calisthenic work in your training, it just makes it so much more rewarding to come into the gym.
Like dips is one of your main motions. That way you're like getting something that is productive for bench still, but you're tricking yourself into being like, oh damn, this is like going.
Yeah, I've never done bodyweight
It's
plus
not even
2 plates.
tricking yourself because it's like I am getting better at this thing, but it's just a bodyweight oriented thing.
Exactly.
Where-
It's just a lift that rewards a lighter body weight, whereas most lifts, absolute strength being heavier and being in a surplus is rewarded.
Yeah, I think there's like being able to like recognize where you are in terms of like your actual happiness with your body comp is like very important, and like how far you are from where you want to be, because it's like if you're doing like a recomp of like or not a recomp, like a small cut of like I've just been slightly worse at it, because like we've done like I've lost a couple pounds just because it's like we pushed probably a little too heavy post meet.
Yep.
Just come down 10 pounds or whatever, right?
Yeah.
It's like we're not expecting noticeable strength gains because that's a tiny percentage of my body weight.
Yep.
But it's just like I'm not gonna max out immediately, obviously, but just like it's like rolling back a little bit. But if like we wanted to make significant changes to my like body composition, it would be like we were talking about post my lifting career, or maybe mid my lifting career. If I ever push up way too high, it's like just fully not thinking about my like upper end strength. It's just like get there, do the best way I can, and then from there, just thinking about like fresh slate, build back up, hitting new body weight PRs.
Yeah, it's like when you you should probably downsize. Let's just say 38. Maybe 40, right?
Yeah.
That's like, let's say peak, you're trying to be the best open powerlifter you can. Maybe we get up to about 370, 375. That's about what I could see you getting up to, right? To be like competing to be the strongest in the world.
Yeah, push up to 390 one time, realize it was a bad choice.
Yeah, be like, I didn't get anything out of that. And then you come back down, you like, okay, 38, you need to downsize. That's like a documented thing. Is trying to stay heavier later than that is a very, very bad idea. And like you said, you're going to try to bring down like 220.
Yeah, like
and then you can get
150 pounds.
You like powerlifting, right? So you're like, don't worry about holding on to it. Just worry about like getting the weight down and getting your health really good, getting in great shape. And then you can almost, if you wanted to, and you're like, you're digging it and your body feels good, you can almost just start again from 220. Like your numbers could be shit and you're like,
yeah, now I'm a Masters 1 220 lifter. Like I'm
Yeah.
a fully different lifter. I can still get good at being like, I'm going to try and be the best.
Masters guy. Yeah.
Yeah,
like
I probably
Masters
won't be
guy.
as serious about it just because it's like, I assume my life priorities will slightly change when I'm 40.
As they should, right?
Yeah,
And it's
like,
like,
I've done my powerlifting career. I'm very proud of it, hopefully.
But you can still have a hobby, right?
yeah.
And you're like, I have a constraint, right? Just like you're saying, like people should know their body fat comfortable levels. Not everybody has to be like us. We're like, I want to get as strong as I can, kind of regardless of what I look like. That's the mission I have set for myself like a decade ago. Same thing for you. Some people are like, I want to get as strong as I can, but I don't want to ever get above this body weight or above this body fat. That's the constraint. That's fine. That's still an awesome challenge. Or it's like
people when they're like embarrassed about that, like or they're like lying to themselves, least productive.
oh yeah,
shit in
people
the
who are
world.
like, I would do anything. It's like, no, you wouldn't. You wouldn't want to be fat, and that's okay.
Like you
Just
can be way better than you are right now while still being happy with what you look like.
Mm-hmm.
It's just gonna take you a little bit more time. Where it's like you ballooning up means you're gonna quit and you're never gonna be like strong or jacked
Yeah.
because you gave up because you were like, oh, this strength training shit makes me feel like shit. And it's like, no, it's because you like told yourself that you want to be strong more than anything.
Yeah.
That's a very rare trait in people
Yes.
for them to actually be
To
like
truly
that.
mean that and to mean it for a long time.
Yeah.
But I think through like maybe through a self-loathing period, you just all you care about is getting strong and don't care about what you look like. But for someone to hold that for 15 years like is necessary,
Yeah.
it's a rare mindset. It's a weird mindset.
Yeah,
Right? Like
so just being like, oh, like I want, like this is roughly the range that I'm happy in, right? I'll just stay there and try and get as strong as possible. Those can be things that like work with synergy. It's just not like diluting yourself into being like, I need to be as strong as humanly possible. It's like, if that's gonna make you miserable, there's no fucking point.
yeah. Would you could tie into this, touch on what you like, your advice to Tom. That's pretty related.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's pretty similar to like what you guys were already saying, right? Just kind of stick where you're comfortable. For context, he did a huge cut, like over 100 pounds, and then was a little bit concerned about.
This is one of Christian's clients.
Yes, and then he was concerned about adding calories back in, right? Which is understandable because you've cut over 100 pounds. So kind of encouraging a little bit of a surplus, but kind of in a more conservative manner, where you're in a surplus, but we're looking for more long game surplus. Not we're bulking and then we're cutting and then we're bulking and then we're cutting. We're in a small surplus. And then, muscle mass comes up. Maybe you're doing a lot more work in the gym. Maybe your maintenance is probably creeping up as well. So then kind of keeping that small surplus over time. And then if you hit a point where you're uncomfortable, then you stay at that weight, go back to maintenance, recomp, and then start going up again. So you don't have to do this like drastic bulk cut thing again.
Yeah, just like for someone who's concerned about regaining weight, they're like, I feel like I've got a genetic propensity to kind of put on weight too fast. Take a really conservative, like slow, stepwise, half a pound a week. And then if you start to get the upper end of what you're comfortable with body fat wise, hit a period of maintenance and just keep training. If your metrics are progressing, you're probably gaining muscle.
Yeah.
Right? And that's become like a more popular talking point recently, is if you're at a sufficiently high body fat, maintenance is not the end of the world actually, right? That's kind of like the Paul Carter type, TNF type, everybody that really likes, what's his name? Chris Beardsley, right? It's like maybe more maintenance once you're at a sufficient body fat and just training and seeing improvements in your metrics. Maybe we're not sacrificing as much gains as we thought, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of like, it used to be like, oh, if you're not bulking and cutting, you're an idiot, right? And me and Max are like, kind of get the argument, but that's not what we've done. We've pushed up to a body weight that was kind of the upper end. Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're so good.
To like, this is the upper end of what we're comfortable with. And we're like, okay, I haven't gained the strength I should have seen in that 20 pounds. Let me just hang out. My training's going good. Why would I cut and interrupt that? Like, I always say, make your decisions based on how your training is going and what's going to facilitate your goals, not some like high-minded scientific thing and then try to predict how it's going to go. Make observation. Like, if you're gaining weight and your training isn't improving, maybe you shouldn't be gaining weight right now. Right? Or if your training's doing great at maintenance, maybe you don't need to add in calories. Maybe you don't need to cut. Just hang out there. Why interrupt your progression? Especially because we're talking about performance-centric training, right? And that's a big thing. Owen, the guy I coach, was like, this was a hang-up of his. He's like, well, the best guys in my weight class are shredded and jacked. As I understand it, bulking and cutting intelligently is the best way to get shredded and jacked. So that's what I'm going to do. And it just kept being like, periodically we would have to interrupt our good, productive training, regress a little bit, and then train really good, and then pause, and then pull back, and then push. And if we switched him over to a model of push to a weight, hang out for as long as you need to until you feel like you're outgrowing that weight a little bit, and then you can push up another 5, and then hang out at that weight for a while. And that it's been the same for his rate of improvement in terms of body, like lean body mass. And it has been just consistent, good training, good training, good training, good training. There's no interruptions. There's no reason to throw away your momentum. If you can hold momentum for 6 months, why the fuck wouldn't you hold momentum for 6 months, right? Rather than just hitting these periods of maintenance, and then maybe some of the science indicates that these periods of maintenance aren't as useless as we used to think they were, assuming your body fat is sufficient. It's interesting to see kind of retroactively some arguments being made for what we've always gravitated towards, which is like, yeah, I get the argument that like bulk and then strip the fat. That's the best way to improve your body composition quickly.
Yeah.
But the goal isn't to improve the body composition quickly. The goal is to put in good training block after good training block after good training block and gradually improve the composition.
Yeah.
And for my clients, we keep gravitating to that push up, hang out. If you push too far, like you said, maybe there's like, you do the first quarter of the cut, the first half of the cut, and then maintain for a while, but you don't do the bottom half of the cut necessarily. We're just looking to stack productive training. Unless you're someone who's starting out at a much higher body fat than they're comfortable with, because maybe they lied to themselves, or maybe they're just coming from being sedentary. Like you said, being honest with what you're comfortable with body fat wise. Just being honest with yourself is important. Sometimes you need need to adjust what you're comfortable with, because some guys are like, if I can't see my ab veins, I feel like a fat lard.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, that's just being mentally unwell. You need to adjust your appraisal of that. But for the most part, just be honest with yourself, right?
Man, when I start losing my 4-pack, I really can't do it.
And not to extend this longer than necessary, but I think also at our gym, since it's so absolute weight oriented at the gym in town, nobody really cares about, or I would venture to assume a lot of people don't even know what DOTS is who compete in powerlifting or care about it. So I've seen several people where women who will lose weight, be happier with how they look, but then be really upset that their numbers are down. But that's part of the equation of how good of a power lifter
Just
you are.
like they're a better lifter now, but
Yes.
they're still miserable because.
Right, which they can they'll understand if you talk to them about it. They're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But then internalizing that is so tough for most people. I feel like, because that would be hard for me to be like.
Well, yeah, competition in the gym doesn't happen with dots, right? Like
Yeah.
realistic, like when I compare myself to the other guys at the gym when I was younger, I wasn't whipping out the dots calculator. I was, you bench 350, I only bench 3 plates. Doesn't matter if it's a cope if I'm like, oh, but he's heavier than me. Competition kind of just happens with plates on the bar. So people kind of don't realize that maybe that cut made them a better power lifter.
Yeah.
Or if their quality of life went up. I think comparison isn't productive there. You're not comparison is great if you're learning shit.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm comparing how I train to everybody, if everybody better than me is training a little bit different than what I'm doing, that comparison might give me some really helpful info.
Yeah.
Right? But if you're just comparing yourself to people at the gym and like, man, I'm a piece of shit, I suck. And it's like, that's not very helpful. Like, just focus on getting self-improvement. Like, it's a lot easier to say than do. But like, that's kind of been the model that me and Kirsten have gravitated to our clients, is unless someone's starting like way heavier than they would like, it's that maybe they're starting like, they're a little chunky, but they're like, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
We're going to maintain. You're a little chunky. You got calories on you to
You're
gain
still
muscle.
gonna like how you look more and more.
Exactly.
Because especially if you're a fucking beginner, like you're gonna look so fundamentally different, even if you're the same body weight.
If all your tier 3 stuff, you're beating the books every week, like you're going to rapidly like how you look more, and you're going to hang out. And then eventually you're like, man, I feel like I really like how I look. Maybe you could push up just a little bit, right? Like these periods of pushes and maintenance and the occasional little drop back, unless you're someone who's like, man, I really am unhappy with where I'm at. And I don't think that's me being delusional. I think that's me being actually rooted in reality. Where it's like, yeah, if you're 40% body fat and you're like, I don't like how I look, sure, that's a normal way to feel. Maybe you adjust accordingly and just don't worry about your numbers for a while. But it's interesting, right, to hear people making arguments for kind of what we've always done. And we have been kind of quiet about it because we didn't want to get yapped at of like, you guys are idiots, you should be bulking and cutting. And it's like, we've managed to keep your total ticking forward for 11 years. And I feel very confident we will be able to keep it ticking forward. Like you're getting stronger and stronger. You're entering like the true elite. You're gonna have injuries. There's gonna be little setbacks, but I'm very confident we can keep you ticking forward for another decade to come. Right?
Hey, if this next meet goes well, it's a big jump in my open powerlifting.
True,
that is one of the most insane jumps that is the most insane jump in my open powerlifting.
Yeah.
If I get the 1,000 kilos, going from low 2,000s to 2,200, crazy.
We should have had a meet about a year ago.
Well, I've signed up for 2 meets and had just like random insane life circumstances happen. Because it's not like I would advise anyone to not compete for as long as I have, especially when you're making, like I've made very good progress and I've been training seriously the whole time. It was just truly like, I just have had stuff get in the way of me like practically being able to make it 2 meets. Shout out my axle breaking. What's the strongest name in strength sports?
Well, I was looking at open powerlifting to look for some. Half-Thor Julius Bjornsson's a tough ass to beat.
Half-Thor is cool.
Being like, oh, his name is Thor and he's the strongest man ever. Like, okay.
Fuck.
Yeah, all right. Andrew House, but it's spelled all Germany.
Yeah,
Anyone named Braun?
Brawny.
Brawny James.
I always like alliteration, so like a Konstantin Konstantinov. Damn, that's
That's
cool.
a strong name.
That's fucking so sick.
That is a very strong name.
And then your nickname is the Kalashnikov in that one YouTube video.
I will say I just fall victim to brutal stereotyping where it's just like every name that sounds very Russian or Eastern European. I'm like, that's a strong fuck right there.
Fuck, that's crazy.
It could be.
Brutus Leviticus has the alliteration too.
That's a great example.
Yep. Yeah. That's a really good one as well. Just like, the strongest man to ever live. His name is Zadrunas Zaviskus from
We always
Lithuania.
gotta give a shout out to Alpha Blaze.
Alpha Blaze is a wild name. I remember we saw it was like the old U.S. Open.
Yeah.
They announced the name. Me and Max hadn't even heard of this guy. I don't think.
I think we were looking through who was signed up, looking for someone, and we were like, oh, haha, is that guy's name Alpha Blaze?
Yeah, we were looking. I think they posted like the sheet with everybody that was like, oh, here's all like the 198s. And it just said Alpha Blaze. I was like, that's a wicked name.
Going through, we were going through, like, who's the strongest, like, Kirsten ever. Kirsten's very close, because her name is spelled very weird.
Yeah.
The strongest Samuel. One of the strongest Sams was Sam Hamburger, and I was like, that's so freaking cool.
Also a great name.
What a good name.
Yeah,
I'm coming for that strongest Max title.
Yeah, there's two guys. One guy's Russian and one guy's Ukrainian named Maxim. Who total around that like 2,200.
I'd like to correct that. Maxime Boudreau, comfortably stealing the...
You deadlift more though. That's the only test of strength.
I'm the strongest Maxon right now for sure.
Yeah, there's nobody named Maxon out there. That's for
I got
sure.
the Empire guy.
Damn.
Yeah, Powerlifter, also named Maxon.
That's wild.
Yeah.
His mom also made up a name.
If you guys didn't know, my name is actually Maxon.
Maxon.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, is it Maxwell? Is it Maximilian? Like,
it's Max on.
It's Max on.
What is the lamest accessory to be excessively good at?
Leg extensions.
Hey.
You're saying that to two people who are pretty good at leg extensions, actually.
You're getting cooked by Pete.
Pound for pound, my leg extensions are getting absolutely thrashed.
I don't know. There's like, it really depends on like how you're doing them. Like if you're doing them well, anything is kind of cool.
Well, that's kind of the point, is that being good at an accessory is just like sick, but also if
How
we're saying
you're-
like, yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause I've seen some people do some bad dumbbell shoulder press.
I was gonna
I've
say-
done some bad, like, because if you're rotating them in, you can cut the ROM by so much. And it's like, if you are dumbbell overhead pressing significantly more than your barbell, great sign, you're cheating them.
Or dumbbell
Huge.
bench.
Oh.
Right? Like, it's just like, again, you tip them in, you have them like squared, you don't rotate them to 45. It's like, if you're going to do a dumbbell bench, as far as me and Kirsten are concerned, you rotate to 45, and it's a greater range of motion variation. It's one deviation less stable. It's a greater range of motion, and it allows for some active protraction, retraction to actually take your pecs through a bigger range of motion than your restricted barbell bench.
Which should be
These are
significantly
benefits
weaker.
it should be a good bit weaker. Like, so if you're doing like, oh yeah, I can do like half of my bench in each hand for 5, it's like, okay, maybe we aren't getting the benefits. Like, I guess it comes down to like two things. Like, how are you doing it? And then also, are you maybe being a bit of a dickhead and dumping a bunch of training economy into something that is your greatest strength? Which, honestly, if someone's upfront about it,
Yeah.
that's fine. That's fine.
Well, it's just like double bench is your primary.
They're just like, I'm really good at split squats, and also I do 5 sets twice a week after my squats. It's like, okay, but you're really good at them. Maybe you should do more squats.
Yeah.
But if they're like, no, I take pride in cooking everybody at these. I'm like, okay, that's kind of funny. You can do whatever you want with your training. That's kind of what makes training this open-ended cool thing. That's fine. But when someone has this weird like, no, it really helps my squat. Clearly not, because you're twice as good as everyone else at split squats and are not the best squatter, even close. Like, there's probably something better you could do with your time. A lot of it comes down to like how delusional you are about like how you're doing it and why you're doing it. That makes it cool as fuck or not cool.
Yeah, I feel like being disproportionately really good at something that should be really, really hard, in my mind, is like you're starting to lose the cool factor, because I'm like, all right, you're either defeating the purpose by doing something to like make it way easier, or you've like lost the plot a little bit. Like you said, if you're just like, hey, this is my main motion, like I just fuck with doing whatever motion, like, but like it's always very fun, and we're like, everyone thinks of Bulgarian split squats as like the absolute fucking death one. But then you'll see some people that are like kicking off their back leg really, really hard. And it's like, if you're way too
There's
good
an
at those-
argument to be made for that, though.
Really?
For some things where you rock heavier and you're actually looking for loading in the rear leg, because it's like loading a big stretch on your rec fem, which is the one that crosses your hip and your knee. Like the way Robert Forshman does them, where it's like, man, you're rocking, like that's a bilateral exercise.
Yeah.
It's just one leg's doing a leg extension and one leg legs doing a squat. There's an art, like the Sika guys, they're not against that rear leg loading. It's like that's almost a benefit of the exercise, but it's a different execution than what we do, which is like get as much weight of that, like that back foot, you're trying to like hover it, right?
Yeah.
Like you're really, it's just for balance. You're trying to get really heavy over that lead foot. They're kind of just different exercises, but I've heard enough people that I respect quite a bit make arguments for that rear, like loading into the rear leg variation that I feel like I would be a dickhead to be like, oh no, you're cheating.
I'm a little bit like that. I'll throw out another one. I love dunking on accessories. Hatfield.
Oh, amen. Yeah.
Anyone, you can tell me any number.
Home gym. For home gym people.
Fuck you. This is the devil's advocate here. This man is speaking.
Now you know how it feels. Max is criminally guilty of literally always playing devil's advocate, as am I, which leads to us just arguing about shit neither of us believe all the time. It's a good kind of home gym leg press alternative.
I just do squats.
Yeah, that's fair, and that works pretty good.
I don't know. That is a good hypothetical argument. I've never seen anyone do it. The most of the Hatfields I've ever seen are people at gyms, and I'm like, don't do that.
What's his name? Strong but not so technical thrower in his squad.
Oh my God, Dog Swayze?
Yeah, and what's the over
Grip and Rip?
Yeah, Grip and Rip USA, baby.
Yeah.
They use it effectively within their program, and they produce enough good like squats. With their system clearly works, and they believe in it.
I write. That's not that they're doing throwing stuff.
My lifter Carson, he does them good.
Really?
Well, yeah,
I'm shocked you programmed them.
He's a home gym guy, and he's got pretty cooked leverages. Like his femurs are long, and it just lets us get in some like
volume.
Deep squat pattern volume with relevant loads. It's a great fit for him.
Okay.
If he was built a little bit better, probably we wouldn't do them. But it really lets him access positions that are good, but he can't get into without the counterbalance.
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
That was a trick.
Psych. The other one, I don't love, like, people are like, it lets you overload the eccentric. You're helping on the eccentric too with your arms. People are like,
forget how much you can move with your arms.
or like people are like, no, you're supposed to row yourself on the belt squat. Like you should use your arms a ton because it allows for overloaded eccentrics. And it's like, most of the strongest people in the world across most of the direct strength sports aren't really relying on so over maximal work. It's just not something that's done a ton, right? Like the best raw benchers don't do a lot of slingshot. They don't
Even
do
Josh
a lot
Bryant
of
is leaning
overweight
away
negative.
from some more of his old.
He does it
older-
less now. You can definitely see it's a little bit less. He loves his varied methods, and he treats the bench as a power exercise. So like maybe there's a little bit more argument there, but across like tested powerlifting, overweight work doesn't really like. Maybe you got you're like, oh, but Jen Thompson does walkouts. Well, what about everybody that's squatting more than Jen Thompson, right? Like we should look to the average, not the outlier. I'm not huge on like, oh, it overload lets you use more weight. I'm big on submaximal weights and building volume, and that's kind of my thing. So when everybody's like, you don't understand the Hatfield, you're supposed to cheat a bunch so that way you can expose your body. I know a lot of guys who can do monster Hatfields that can't free squat their way out of a wet paper bag. If that overload was so potent of a thing, maybe it would be helping a little bit more.
I want to hear what you guys think about this. I saw somebody on Instagram, some girl, she Hatfield lunged 50 pounds more than she can free squat.
Is she an athlete?
No, she's a powerlifter.
Okay.
Sam going to play the devil's advocate and gets.
I wanted to check because the hat-fielded lunge is used by a couple of really good S&C. You've seen it a bit, right? Yeah. It's like there's a couple schools of thought that like they like that more than the free squat. They really like those ultra heavy lunges. There's a couple of schools that like their athletes go yard on those. Yeah. For powerlifting, not my favorite thing. Much
weird
love,
use of training.
Peace and love to this lady.
I also will say I've been losing a ton of respect for hip thrusts recently. Like the number of small women I've seen hip thrust over 700 pounds to 1,000 pounds who don't even have that big of glutes. I'm like, I think you're doing this to grow your glutes, and if you can hip thrust 800 pounds and your glutes aren't big, what like you're specializing in hip thrust at that point.
It's pretty impressive.
But I also feel like there's a lot of people doing, I don't think it's apples to apples with what we see, because there's a lot of people using bigger diameter plates when they're hip thrusting and using that specialty hip thrust bench that rotates, and then people doing a combination of both of those things. So I'm like, you're doing a reduced ROM on the easiest possible setup and then doing singles. Which, like, if you just want to have a big hip thrust, that's sick. Do whatever you want. But
Doing singles on hip thrust is crazy.
True.
That's vulgar.
The reduced ROM isn't the end of the world, because like if you're gonna be doing a hip thrust, it's to challenge terminal hip extension, like the end range hip extension. And if you're like a Chris Beardsley guy, it's like, oh well, the glutes have best leverage there. This is a really effective position to train glutes. If you're more of a Brad Schoenfeld guy, you're like, yeah, that's probably just not a good use of time. We want something that exposes peak internal moment arm in the stretch position, not peak internal moment, like peak resistance in the contracted position. Kind of depends where you fall on that. You and I have kind of come like, probably just get stronger in a couple of squeeze exercises and a couple of stretch exercises, maybe a few more stretch exercises and squeeze exercises. Like if you lunge, you squat, you RDL, and you hip thrust, you're probably, and then maybe some kind of abduction. You're probably doing all right. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I see people get like full walkouts with heavy weights. I'm like, that is kind of impressive.
Yeah.
I'm not so good at that.
Yeah, I just thought that was interesting, because I do think hip thrusts are a good exercise and have a place, especially even in powerlifting programming. But it's just been interesting to see, like, the more tiny women I see do 700, 800, and 900 hip thrusts, I'm like, I don't know how useful this method is for growing your glutes right now, whatever you're doing.
Well, we've seen a couple of high-level lifters go down the arc of like treating hip, because they're like, oh, it's a big, heavy hip hinge that spares your lower back.
This is how I'm gonna lock up my deadlifts.
How much that's sparing your lower back at that point, though, right?
I mean, compared to a hinge, right? Like it's a lot, like you're not using your erectors very much, right? And so you're like, oh, this is like a belt squat, where like the belt squat's for the quads, that spares my lower back, and I can really push it. This is like the posterior chain belt squat. And we've seen like Pete Rubish went down this road. Big Z, and I'll give it to him, was very consistent with it. Treated it as like a tier 2 exercise. And we're very concerned with getting very strong at it. And other than Big Z, who that seems to be more for like his low back health. Like he's talked enough about like, I need to train the shit out of my glutes. He does a lot of stuff in extension. Like maybe that's more for low back health than anything else, but he does have like a very extended deadlift. And there's a couple of reasons, like, but you want to look to the majority, not the exception. Almost every other powerlifter we've seen go down this, like, I think Dawson went down the rabbit hole of like training the shit out of hip thrust. It's like almost a tier 2 movement. Almost everybody kind of gives that up and they don't see the returns.
Yeah.
I think hip thrusts are a great, very viable tier 3 movement, and that's where they stay. And that was actually the mistake. I gave you hip thrust as a tier 2, and I was like, that's kind of a tier 3 actually. No, that's tier 3. I forgot our tier 2s are on your big Saturday. Yeah, I think that's relegated to tier 3, and it should be just a means to an end of like, I'm not emotionally attached to how much weight I'm using at all. I'm just trying to get good work across 3 work sets. That's kind of where they should stay for strength athletics, in my opinion.
That's also one of those ones where it's like, if it's a horrible weakness, maybe look into it. If it's reasonably strong, it's probably less of a like if I was like, oh my God, I'm having a hard time hip thrusting 4 plates. Oh shit, I should probably do them maybe. Like maybe look into that if it's like, I have a visible weakness of my glutes and a glute exercise is very weak.
We see that a lot in PT, like Gen Pop, people with back pain, they just have no glute strength. Like we've had patients, you put them on a back extension, not a 45 degree, but like a GHD, and they can't do 5 back extensions because their glutes are so weak and underdeveloped. And these are people who lift too. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, probably a lot more, especially dudes, should be doing squeeze position glute work at some point, but.
There's a lot of like ego movements that I feel like if you're really bad at them, it's like that might be you are the person that probably should do them. If you're really good at them, you should not be the person fucking doing them.
Exactly. If it's like known as an ego lift and you're weak at it, yeah, you might want to give that a go for a little bit.
There's plenty of people that like we would be like, you should stop incline benching.
Yes.
Like we've known a lot of people where it's like, if your goal is powerlifting bench, you are wasting so much.
Nate, I love you. You're too good at incline.
Me, not that person.
Oh, no.
I can overhead press. I can seated overhead press. I can do a lot. My bench is okay. Holy shit, I am bad at incline.
Same.
Wow, like this has been cool. We found something to bring up.
Yeah. Loss of control of your glutes or glute strength. Usually it's just like a neural thing where it's like you're not very efficient at recruiting your glutes in that terminal. Like people lose that when their hip flexors get really tight. Women who have been pregnant kind of get pulled into this anterior posture and they're never in the squeeze position for the glutes. And if you're never in that position, you kind of aren't very strong there. And so they lose the ability to kind of flex their glutes through. And like the same thing with like a lot of dudes, you lose this. So like somewhere in your program, something where your cue is squeeze the glutes every rep, whether you just cue squeezing your glutes on your RDL or on a back extension or on a hip thrust. Because that's a common loss of function as your quads get bigger and tighter, or if you're fat, or if you were pregnant, and you get pulled into this anterior posture and you're never actually going to all the way a shortened glute position. That's a great, like, just practical takeaway for you guys. Tier 3, end of your deadlift day. Do something where you squeeze your glute. Maybe a hip thrust. If you don't have a hip thrust, do a single leg hip thrust. You'd be surprised. Body weight will probably be pretty hard at first because a lot of us have lost that kind of range. A back extension where we just really are like with a band for resistance or a weight. Just something where we're really challenging a deliberate squeeze all the way to a short position of the glutes is a great tier 3 movement. It's like not going to blow up your deadlift overnight, but it's a great investment.
That was honestly a more productive question than I was intending it to be. So we'll end with one more goofy one. Jock mode and dork mode lifter delusions. You know, it seems like most lifters are somewhat delusional. What are the ones that are cool and what are the ones that are lame to believe in?
Do you have one yet?
No.
I'll give you a sec because I'm yapping again.
I got one. I'll go first.
You can go
I'll
ahead.
break it up. If you see the weights as the enemy, very cool. A guy who's like, I'm going to war with the weights, so silly. If you see other people around you as the enemy, so lame. The villagers. You got. But like the people who like.
I wonder if someone will get that.
I hope so.
Someone might pick up what the ripping apart the villagers is referring to.
But like if you're like mad at like the people who don't respect, like if you're like angry at like all the people who doubted me, like that's so lame. But if you're like, oh, like these weights are in my way, I've known quite a few people who are like, I'm just like that's so fun and silly. Is the idea of like personifying the weights as the enemy that you've got to destroy?
Yeah, I like that. It's
If the villagers were the weights,
we've talked about silly delusion maxing. As long as you kind of have a wrap on it, I like it. People will make fun of those guys. Hell yeah, man. Live life with some intensity.
Yeah, you're coming like
be bought in, be like, this is my fucking enemy. Hell yeah, man. Like most people live a mundane desk life where they have no ups, no downs. Their week is flat, their life is flat. If you come in every Friday and your mortal enemy greets you on the bar,
yeah, you're like, I'm storming the beaches of these split squats. I'm pushing forward.
You're going life and death with your enemy, like you're wrestling with the devil every Friday when you deadlift. Hell yeah. I'm glad you got something to look forward to. A flat week where everything feels the same. Like I almost made a video recommending people try a big Saturday where like most of the time, this is one of the first things I taught Kirsch, like spread things equally across the week. Usually that works really good.
Yeah.
But sometimes maybe have a brutally hard day and then make the latter half of the week easier just because it makes your week less flat. Like some people are going through their life, their job kind of sucks or school kind of sucks. Give you something like, oh, these couple days are ramping up to this big day that I'm going to have like 2 energy drinks. I'm going to go all out. And then it's recovering from, give yourself a little bit of up and down to the week, right? Like things being flat is so sad. And I've had a couple of clients that we mixed it up just for the sake of them having, like, they felt like they were just kind of like checking in and checking out of the gym.
Yeah.
Let's give you something that like, you have that weird emotional like fear coming into it and you're fired up.
If you guys are getting bored with training or like, your life is a little like stale at the moment, try to do a big Saturday. Just have like one crazy go to war session. Just like,
make sure you account for it by having the session
other
or
days.
two. If you're going to do that, just do it the smart way and drop off the difficulty of a session or 2 prior.
But yeah, no, I think like if you see like your fellow gym goers as allies against the weights, adopt that mentality. It's so funny and silly. It's like we all have one common enemy, which is these plates.
I think it's kind of dork mode when people at local meets try to do head-to-head competition with people who are not even close to their strength. Do you know what I mean?
Like dumping on people worse than them?
Yes, or even like, or if you're like, I'm like go into the meet and you don't even know who these people are and you're like, I'm gonna like beat them or something. But if you do that in the long term, then it's jock mode. Like if you have someone locally that you're like, this person beat me at the last 3 local meets, but I think if I work really hard this year and we both compete once a year and I think I can get closer or maybe surpass them at this meet, that's jock mode. but not thinking about it all year, and then being like 2 weeks out from the meet, looking at the roster and being like, I'm gonna destroy these people is kind of dork mode.
I've got one to add to
Do you
that.
agree, before you do yours, do you agree with that? Because I have mixed feelings about that. Because like my read would be like, okay, yeah, I agree. Like usually when we're competing at a local level, our goal is to pick our attempts based on what's going to improve our total and do the best we can do on that day. But I also think like if you do happen to have a person that you didn't even know existed who's very close to you on the day, you can gain.
My caveat was that they're not close in strength level.
Oh, so you're just dunking on people
Yeah.
or getting mad that someone's dunking on you?
Yeah, who's way better than you.
Getting mad you're getting dunked on by someone who's just been doing it longer or harder than you, that is unbelievably whack and cringe. It's just like, yes, dude, he's been doing this twice as long as you. You skip all of your tier 3s every week. What right do you have to be this upset you got dunked on by this guy who does it more seriously?
I think it's almost like whether it's a source of positive or negative for you, where like if you're mad that you're losing or like angry at them, like you're such a loser, dude. Like what are you doing? But if it's just like, oh, like I'm in the off season and like I want to come back and beat that guy who kicked my ass last time, right? And then you lose and you're like, oh, I'll get him next time. Like I think that's like sometimes like the positive like anime dorky thing is being like, oh, like this is my fucking Vegeta, like me and him, I've got to catch up to him.
Yeah, that's endearing.
Like that, because I've had people go to the gym who are like, dude, I've got to catch up to you, and they like me a lot, but
Yes.
they're just like, you
Like, yeah.
motivate me. The idea that you're so much better than me makes me want.
Well, it's
to be
like
better.
Jesse. I don't know if Jesse watches these.
Shout out
Jesse
Jesse.
was a guy that used to go to our gym, and me and Max talked to him, and we came home but we met him in like the same week, and we're like, Jesse's got it. Jesse is wired in that way. Like Jesse's already a very good lifter. I would be surprised if Jesse doesn't down the line become like at least bottom end elite guy. Like it just like talking to that guy, I'm like, you get it. You've got the effort. You're weird like us, and like he would always be like, oh yeah, when I catch you guys.
Yeah.
You'd actually be like, that's not gonna happen, but I really like that you think that. Whereas like there's other guys that say that and they aren't doing any of the work, and I'm like, okay, dude, like
Because that is very funny because it's the same statement, but like your actions kind of dictate whether or not it's
And your
cringe.
mindset, you
'Cause
know?
it's like we've had plenty of people like I've had plenty of people like I'm gonna get you, I'm gonna break this record, and I'm always like sure, like I'm
for
not
it.
super attached to my teen record that I set 10 years. Like I still get messages pretty often about like I'm gonna crush your American, and I'm like.
don't
Okay.
care. That's awesome.
Dude, I hope you do.
Well, that was like something we really hammered home was like your whole lifting career. I was like, hey Max, you're a shit open lifter. You're not an amazing teen lifter.
Yeah.
Like I was telling Pete, I had to like be like, look, think of yourself as a shit open bodybuilder. You're not a prodigy teen. That will set you up for way better decision making in everything.
Yeah,
because that's what you are.
Yeah.
You just happen to have started young.
Exactly,
But you're
yeah.
still a beginner. It doesn't matter that you're really good for 15. You're still a guy who's only 2 years in.
Well, if you just started at 21, you would be a pretty unremarkable 21-year-old.
You just happen to have started early.
Yeah, and I think that was good for me because I wasn't like, oh, I got to chase down all these
There's-
records because it was like
it
just,
doesn't
the
matter.
goal has always been when I'm 35.
Yes.
I think like there's some amount of like positive, negative. I was gonna say also when you're picking your rivals and if you're taking it in a positive way, if you pick someone who is already weaker than you, that is the lamest shit. The number of people that me and you have known who have declared people their rivals who they're already beating, you're a dickhead. What are you doing? That being said, if you pick someone who's stronger than you and you're positive about it, I love that.
Yeah.
Just being like, oh yeah, this guy throws me 150 pounds, I'm gunning for him. Like
know,
that's fun.
It all so it's like all of these are just coming back to it's like it's more how you do it.
Yeah.
Here I've got the last one. This will be I guess our sign off,
yep.
right? Because I was thinking about one.
Damn, we've been going for an hour.
Yeah, this is a good one.
Long one.
So I was thinking like lifters. Let's just say you got like a 350 dots. If you are doing a bunch of weird mental gymnastics to explain why you're better than other people, I really don't like you.
Yeah.
Like you don't get credit. Like you're like, yeah, but I just turned 36, so I am submasters now, which means I'm way better than my fellow 350ers, or even much worse.
teams.
They're like, they'll say like, well, I'm actually better than this lifter at my gym who has a 400 dots because I am a firefighter masters. I am number one in the world. It's like you're entering a very, very, very small demographic to get an artificially high placing. So that way you can come home and tell yourself that you're better than people that are just better at powerlifting than you. right?
Yeah, it's the open powerlifting 20 categories, people, where it's
They're
like,
like, I'm number
if
one
I'm
world.
going by McLaughlin and a year and a type of equipment, and it's like at a certain point, just like it's okay to not be good.
Or people
Like,
that like seek out extreme novelty because they want to be like, well, I'm top 10 in the world,
like odd lifts.
but they can't, but they can't, or they are not willing to do the work. They'll move federations to an obscure fed
Yeah.
to be like, well, I'm top 10. And it's like, you have to know deep down that where is it? And then they're like arrogant about it. So it's like, do you believe that? Like, you ran to another fed. You're not competing in like, whether it's tested or untested, there's clearly places to compete with more competition. You're running to the less competitive place. I can't think of a reason other than for the fact that you can then be top 3. And there's several examples of that where people like run away from competition and then they use that to like tell themselves they're better than other people.
Yeah.
Whereas if someone's like, it's that same 350 dots and they're like, yeah, I'm pretty good at powerlifting. There's people out there that were better than me. They're amazing, but I'm pretty good. Hell yeah. Fuck yeah. That's sick. They're like, my delf technique is really good. That's awesome, dude. That's sick. They're like, I've been working on it for a while. It's close to perfect. I like that. Right? Like if it comes down to like you're just proud of where you're at, there's people out there better and that doesn't bother you, and you're like, yeah, but I'm pretty good. That's awesome. If you're just constantly like, I'm better than other people, this guy's doing this wrong, you're doing a lot wrong too. What do you like? Why does everything need to come back to what everyone else is doing wrong? Why can't you have a little authentic confidence that like it doesn't matter if they're doing things wrong or right? I think I'm doing all right.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Leave your comment below and defeat the weights today.